This show may contain language and situations that are very adult for some people. So if you're listening or watching this, this is your, say, warning that if you want to watch this at a later time by yourself or don't want certain ears to hear some of the conversations we'll be talking about today, this is your marker to stop here and then come join us later or however you want to do that. Okay, welcome to A Lot of Help. No, yes, with James Lott Jr. This book that I have that came to my house about a year or so ago, I actually read it twice because it's not a light read. It's not a summer romantic thing that you just put in your purse and take it on an airplane and read it. It's a serious account of one's life. And many people out there, I think, go through this. It's not something happened to this person specifically, but the people go through this all the time, especially in our foster care system or how they grew up with certain kinds of parents. And it's a book that will leave you uncomfortable at times, but also there's hope. There's hope in the book also. And there's major hope because the subject of the book is sitting right there across from me. And I'm very happy to have her, Michelle Mays. The book is called Dumpster Doll, The Early Years. So she has more to tell, but this is the first book. So Michelle, thank you for being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, James.
Yes, girl. So first of all, congratulations on the book and surviving and thriving from these experiences. I have my own childhood that I'm writing about right now. I was just telling her off camera, I'm writing about right now too. I'm going to share it with the world. Some people know some stuff already, but I'm going to put it together in a book. Let's start with the title, first of all. Also, Michelle, is it Mooney or Moon?
Moon.
Michelle Moon also helped put this together with her. Make sure I mention her. Yes. And thanks to Michelle. All these Michelles. Love Michelle. My best friend's name is Michelle. We love Michelle. They're great. You read in the book, you find out, because I was like, dumpster doll. I had my own ideas of what it meant.
Yes.
As I was reading your story, it could mean that also, but literally you found a doll by a dumpster.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that for a second because that completely fits the tone of your life.
Right. Okay, so I have to confess, the original title of the book for the 4 years we were writing it was You Can't Make This Shit Up. That was the original title, and we had that as the title probably up until our developmental editing phase during the publishing process. Kevin Hart, who is a much bigger star, or I'm not even a star, but I mean a much bigger personality than myself, released a book that same year with a very similar title, and I was like, I can't do this. Well, one of my professor and dean from my college, she had been helping us and giving us feedback as we finished each chapter, and she sat down with me and she made notes in the chapter of Nellie, and she said, I think this dumpster doll that you talk about, Nellie, she needs to have a bigger story, because before it was like half of a chapter, and she said this is very poetic and very telling of you and how you feel about helping people and why you are the way you are. She said, so I would like to hear more about the dumpster doll. So that phrase just kept going through my mind. And her name is Dr. Diana Klein, by the way. I have to give her props.
Okay.
But the phrase the whole time I was driving home was going through my mind. And I called Michelle Moon, who's my best friend. And I said, hey, what do you think of this as the title? And she said, I love it. I love it. When it becomes a show, that's going to be a great show title. And I was like, yes. So
yes.
It was Dumpster Doll. Dumpster Doll is about the doll I found in the dumpster, but I'm also the real life dumpster doll. So
I was going to say,
I was discarded and thrown away as if I was, no longer any good. And I came out of it. So, and turned into a doll, a literal pageant doll.
Now I want to ask you, because in birthing a book is like giving birth. You're birthing a book. You're putting it out there for people to read. You've been writing it for 4 years. You lived it, but now you're unlocking the secrets. You're unlocking whatever to the world. How's it been for you?
I'll have to say this, and just a piece of advice for you, since you're writing your story, is it was very scary. I have never divulged my entire life to anyone. I've always tried to keep a positive attitude and positive face, and I'm just a quirky, silly, DJ slash I work in a corporate office in finance, so I'm very serious at work, and that's what people see, and they think, oh, Michelle's just this happy-go-lucky person, and nobody knew. No one except my best friend, who I would tell little bits and pieces to, and she said, I want to write your story. I'll do it with you. It's got to be told. And I'd been avoiding it, number one, because it's very hard to recall. It's not hard mentally because it's stuck up here. It's hard emotionally to recall such details. And then also, I was afraid that people would look at me differently after they read my story, but it's actually been quite the opposite of what I thought it would be. People actually, they do look at me differently, but they tell me, wow, I knew you were amazing, but now I really know that all of that behind you is just absolutely astonishing, and I couldn't have respected you anymore, but now I do. And so everybody has just been so wonderful. I just recently moved in the past year to this community in the country, and it's kind of like I call it the mini Smoky Mountains. But people around here, like one person got wind that I wrote the book, and I'm not good at marketing and advertising myself. I'm not bashful. I'm not bashful at all.
You came to me, so I mean, I would like to came to me, so it wasn't.
But I'm not the kind of, I don't feel comfortable talking about myself. I feel like I'm bragging if I'm marketing, and if I could just find an agent or a publicist to do all that for me, that would be great. But one person read it, and then they told another person, and now, it's grown around where I live now. And like, they want to have a meet the author event, and they want me to sign, do a book signing and all this. And so it's picking back up. We released it 2 weeks before the world shut down.
I know.
And then we had all this momentum, and we were doing all these podcasts, and then the world shuts down, and then my book isn't priority, and I don't want to try to push it because I know people are out there struggling with the pandemic. And so I just I let sleeping dogs lie, and we focused on book 2, which we just finished. And and now that things are starting to open back up, people are starting to feel safe again. People are starting to notice again, and hopefully author events will open back up, because I was signed up for every one of them.
Of course.
And they were all canceled.
Of course,
yeah, I have in my office in there, I have like 4 big boxes of books that I was going to take on tour with me.
Of course.
They're still sitting there.
Yeah. No, she's not bashful, because she reached out to me. That's the reason why I know about this. And I'll tell you something. It's funny because people at home during this pandemic were forced to live within themselves. A lot of people, I feel like it was a reset button for many people, because they had to they didn't have jobs to go to, or they had their kids with them, or their spouses, or their aging parents. So there's a lot of stuff came up for a lot of people last year. I know a lot of folks. I'm a life coaching person. I have a lot of clients within the last year come to me. They needed help to deal with this stuff. So I feel like your book is still timely, because people are looking inward. They're starting to look back into their lives, and sharing your story might help others who've gone through something similar. So that's why when I contacted you after all this time, it's like, well, I still want to talk about the book. So I read it. I still want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I had to figure out my own stuff this last year and pull together, So I think the book is timely. That's why you still, to me, it's an evergreen book. That's not something that's seasonal. It's not. It's just like it's gonna be. It's for you pick up any time. It's forever. So.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. When Michelle and I wrote it together, and we rewrote it and had to add more detail because when we first started talking about these stories, we couldn't be more opposite. She had her mom and dad growing up and siblings, and she's, attends church religiously, and she's a devout Catholic. And here I am on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm Church of God girl, and we're Pentecostal, and I'm a little more colorful as far as my language and
Yes.
stuff like that. And so we're like salt and pepper, but we come together and it's like God put us together for a reason so that she could help me tell this story. But when we were writing it, the one thing I kept going over in my mind, I would tell her a story and I would act it out. Then she would type, and then she would say, okay, what do you think of this? And I would just close my eyes and she would read. And if I could not picture it or feel the emotion, then I'd say, no, we need to expand on this, or let's add to this.
Oh, wow.
And because a lot of these stories happen to so many people.
Yeah.
And there is at least one story in there for anyone that reads this
I
book.
agree.
Because even as small as the spider bite, someone emailed me about the spider bite. They're like, oh my gosh, I knew exactly what you were talking. I had the same thing and blah, blah, blah. But I wanted people to feel what I felt at the time, which is why it's in first person. I wanted people to understand the ugliness, because when some of these things are written about, they're kind of glossed over, or they don't go into detail. So you don't actually see the raw ugliness of some of these situations. And that's why I wanted this written the way it is. And it is raw, and it's been told to me it's a punch in the gut, but then it draws you in, and then it punches you in the gut again, and then it draws you back in.
True.
So and I like to laugh, and I always say I missed my calling. I should have been a comedian. So there are a lot of funny parts in there too, to kind of break up the darkness. So I tried to give basically that this book is the foundation of what made me the way I am, because everybody that has known me and knows my family and knows how we grew up, they'll look at me and say, how did you turn out this way? And then my siblings are quite opposite. And they're like, what? You've got to write a book. You got to write a story. And my answer was always, yeah, one day. And then I'm in back of my mind, I'm like, I'm no one famous. I'm a middle class American. I work, I live paycheck to paycheck. But a lot of people said that is exactly why you have to write this story, so that people can relate to you more. You're not some big, super rich, famous superstar, and people can relate to you more.
Yes.
So I said, oh, okay, I'll do it. And then I tried to add kind of how my mentality throughout all of these scenarios, and what got me through going the wrong path, or what got me through that particular moment in time. And I just hope that these stories, which I know they have, because I get many emails a week, and so many people. One woman reached out after reading the book, and she said this book gave her the courage to report her boss, who had been sexually harassing her for 10 years. And she never had the courage to do anything until she read my book. So that was really, really inspiring. And I was like, after I heard that, I was like, you know what? I did do the right thing. And I was very apprehensive on releasing it. Even after we finished it, I was like, I don't know how people will look at me. I don't want the pity stare. The pity stare.
Yes,
They're like, oh.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Well, so my answer to the pity stare is, Don't give me that. I'm probably stronger than you.
Right, exactly. Exactly. That's the
Don't
point.
give me the pity stare. I am, it's not that I appreciate what I went through, but I am happy that I went through it because it made me strong enough to deal with anything that is thrown my way. So,
It's a tough thing because you go through some horrific stuff and you're like, okay, I'm kind of grateful because I've learned things I probably wouldn't have learned, but then you went through it, so it's still painful.
right,
Like it's just that weird, your brain tries to figure that out.
right.
Like, what does that mean? I mean, because I was, I've shared some with my listeners. I was raped at knife point violently at 17, and I learned a lot about that, about myself, from that whole experience, the recovery, the judicial system,
Sorry.
being a man. I learned all this stuff that I would have known if I hadn't went through that. So I don't wish. I'm not glad I went through it. I'm not glad. So I know you're
Right,
not glad I went through it,
right.
but it did help me help other people now, and it's made me part of. I mean, if you take it out of me, what would that do to my personality today? Like, what would that do? Take any part of this out of Michelle Mays, well, then would she still be the same Michelle Mays as she is now? That's wonderful and fabulous, or would something mess that up if they took one of those bad things out of your system? I mean, it's one of those, it's one of those weird kind of like everything happens for a reason, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. But it's true,
It is,
it's true.
it is so true. But I feel, and I say this all the time to people that go through things, I feel like, and I'm not saying everybody should have to go through
Oh,
hardships,
no,
but
no, no, no.
I feel like people that have endured hardships are some of the most genuine, caring people out there because they know what it feels like to be bullied. They know what it feels like to be um, attacked. They know what it feels like to be looked at as if you're nothing. And I always have said this: the best form of revenge is success. So get out there, make yourself successful, prove to those people who doubted you and looked down upon you that you're more than what they thought you were,
Yeah,
and prove to yourself that you can do anything.
yeah.
So,
It's funny. So let's talk about as I started getting myself recovery of things. I looked at my parents who weren't the greatest, and your book actually gives us you give us a picture of your mother and your father's upbringings, and especially your mom.
mm,
And so it's funny to read the book because she inflicts. We know this already to be true. It's been many studies about this, and you and I just know this personally. They can the ones that are hurt then are suddenly when they're in a position of power, so to speak, then they hurt the next. And your mom was one of 11 children, one of those big families back in the day. The horrific things of being locked in a basement all day long. I mean, like that just, I mean, that was just crazy talk. But then to have her abuse her younger sister, Linda, speaking of Linda, and then her kids, like just turn it around. I was like, so so you're feeling, so you're telling the story, you're feeling for your mom as a kid. I'm actually feeling for her, which I think we have to somehow remember everyone is human.
yeah.
So they come from somewhere. That's what your book did for me. It reminded me, my parents, his father was beating his mother all the time. It was abusive, abuse that. Everyone grows up a certain way. They get a card, they get dealt these cards. And some folks do not repeat the behavior, and some do. Your mom, unfortunately, repeated behavior to you guys. Your dad,
Yes.
PTSD, which is a very major thing people need to talk about, nowadays,
Yes.
especially. He repeated behaviors too that weren't the greatest. You know, I so I just want to tell you from reading your book, I felt for your parents a little bit in the beginning, and then it's such a it's again your book plays with your emotions. It's like, I shouldn't feel for them because I know what happens later, what they did here. Like, but then you kind of, well, they were kids once too. They were young once too. Did you understand your parents better when you started learning about their pasts?
Yes. Actually, during the rewrite, initially when I got the stories out, um, you could just feel the hatred that I had
I'm
and the
sure.
animosity towards especially my mother.
Yes.
Um, but once we started rewriting and rewriting, it's like, well, okay, I can see I did this. Is that because I'm like her? Is that because I have that in my genes, or is it because of what I went through? Because there's a chapter called The Monster Within Me. I had, when I was younger, a very horrible temper, just like my mother. And my father, who, when his PTSD goes off, I mean,
Yeah.
it's get out of his way. Something's going to get thrown and it might hit you and he won't understand.
Right.
Um, so I show in that chapter that I too have that tendency. And, I was really concerned growing up, and you see it again in book 2. I was really concerned growing up that I was going to end up killing someone because of all the rage that I had inside. And I easily could have gone the same path. I had children, and every time I would start to feel that coming, or anger or frustration, I would kind of step back to that moment in time as a kid saying, okay, this scared me when my mom or my dad acted like this. I'm not going to act like this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to repeat. It takes a hard, conscious effort to not repeat the sins of your
It's
parents.
true. It's true.
And it is so hard. I call it break the circle.
Mhm.
And I wrote like a little song. It's kind of a poem. It's going to be in book 2, but it's, if you don't take the steps to change what you didn't like when you were young, then you're just going to repeat it. And then your kids will go through the same thing you did, and so forth and so forth. So you have to be especially cognizant and aware of how you're reacting. It's called emotional intelligence, and it's very hard to master. In some situations, I still haven't mastered it.
Right. Right.
You cut me off on the highway, I'm probably going to give you a finger.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yes.
I think we all have a little
Oh,
bit
we
of
do.
it.
Oh, we do.
But there are certain chemicals in your brain that they go away. They don't stop you from doing certain things, and you have to train your brain. You have to. Um, my youngest brother, and I don't want to give away too much of
Right.
the older, but my youngest brother did not know at the time that he was schizophrenic, and he killed someone. He didn't mean to,
Right. Right.
but he just flipped out and he killed someone.
Yeah.
And he spent time in prison, but while he was in prison, found out he was schizophrenic and bipolar, and he's medicated now, and he works, and he has a lovely family. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's so easy to just let it go. And I've always felt like I've had to guard my reactions to things and guard
Yes.
who I am, and not tell people who I am or where I came from, because I didn't want that look like, oh, well, you came from trash and you came
Right.
from trouble. And, you know, and that was my biggest fear about the book too, that, it might hurt me professionally. And,
Oh, yeah.
it didn't, it
Well,
didn't.
of course
I
not.
mean,
Of course not.
but yeah, I still have, and I say that in the book, I still have a lot of demons that I deal with, but I'm constantly, and I'm not schizophrenic, I'm not saying that, but I'm constantly talking to myself
Oh, yeah.
and saying, okay, Michelle, this is upsetting. How are you going to react to this? And
Yeah.
if you don't think you can control your reaction, just step away. Take the day off, just step away from whatever is upsetting you in the moment, because you don't want to show these people your monster.
No, you don't.
We keep the monster buried.
Yeah, we don't want to bring them out. Don't bring them
No.
out. Well, you mentioned your siblings, and there are a couple of there's one particularly surprising passage that involves your siblings. I mentioned the name Charlie. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's I want people to actually, when you read it, I don't want to give that too much away of that, because it's a very shocking thing that happens. But you mentioned your siblings having issues. I mean, are they? I mean, they must. I mean, you all came from the same family, and you all went through the foster care system. You all went through. So I mean, they. So I guess they just have. They must have problems. They must have issues. And just like they're their issues doing
Yeah.
that. Have they read the
Yeah.
book? Have they read the book? Do you know about the book?
Okay, I know my youngest brother has, because
Okay.
he called me. He started reading it that night and he called me the next morning. And I asked him, because I gave that to them all before I released it.
Okay.
I wanted everyone in the family to know what was in it before it came out. My older brother is homeless and schizophrenic and addicted to meth, and he's running around on the street. And I found him. I took him out to eat. I took him shopping. I cleaned him up. I tried to get him in a home, and he wouldn't stay. And I don't know if he read it or not. My middle brother, he has read it. But I don't think he finished. I think certain parts stopped him.
I'm sure.
And I think that chapter right there is as far as he read. My father, it took him until 2 months ago from the time it came out to finish it, because he had to keep stopping. So, but a lot of other people in my family have read it, and they've all emailed me saying, we had no idea you guys went through this. Well, yeah, we didn't talk about it.
No.
We were just happy to be back with our father and just put it behind us. You know, if you act like it never happened, maybe it'll go away.
Yeah.
That's kind of the mentality. And it didn't go away with my brothers. It stayed in their brains. I mean, it's in my brain too,
Right.
but it affected them mentally. And, you know, they're bipolar, schizophrenic, all three of them. And yeah, one of them is the only one taking treatment for it, and he's okay. I mean, it is a treatable disease.
Yes.
But
Wow.
so yeah, they struggle. They struggle. Now, my middle brother, Eric, he actually did the cover.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why it's kind of dark and
Yeah.
haunting, because I told him, I said, I want a girl wearing a pageant dress, carrying the doll, coming out of the darkness, going into the light. And everything else he added the padlock and, you know, different things to make it kind of eerie.
Yeah.
But he's a tattoo artist, and he's a really good tattoo artist. But he struggles with substance abuse as well. So
You know, when you go through something like this, I get it. I mean, I don't. I feel bad because I know people medicate to feel numb, to forget the pain, to drive it out,
yeah,
and it doesn't go away. I mean, it really doesn't. It's just you got to find a place for it. I feel like with you, you're continually finding a place for what has happened to you. Because I mean, when you write, or you and Michelle, both of you guys wrote, very matter of fact. It's a style, it's
yes,
very matter of fact. And like one section that also kind of got me was Uncle Jeff, and how matter of fact you talked about him and what he was doing to you, was molesting you and doing to you, and even if it's just one scene that sticks with me, you know, you're sitting there and you said he just tosses these like magazines on top of you because you're half naked basically, just tosses it to cover it up so no one. I mean, it's like that's such an interesting, just the phrasing of that. I'm getting a mental picture of it. You know, I mean, the whole thing is, and your style is just like this way. You know, I just accepted that I was his plaything. I'm like,
yeah.
and you're like, wow, like that's, and you were so young. I mean, like, so this is not happening. It's not happening to a 25, 30-year-old woman. This is like, these are kid. You're a kid.
I was 4.
You're 4, and you understood at that point. This is just how it is. That was another part of the book that I think people will be surprised about. Also, there at 8 years old, in the middle of all this, you have this whole family breakdown situation happening. But at 8 years old, you're hit by a car.
A drunk driver.
So if things aren't bad enough, like you said, you can't make this shit up, as you just said earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make this shit. It's like you're already going through stuff, but you're crossing the street and a hit and run drunk driver
Yeah.
knocks the crap out of you and sends you
Yeah.
into the ICU.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so was it, so did you always remember that accident? 'Cause you were young. Did you always remember that accident, or did it come to you as you were?
No, the
Yeah.
doctors said I actually had amnesia when I first woke up for a while. I couldn't even spell what. I mean, I didn't when I first woke up, my father was there and I didn't even know who he was. And he actually, and it doesn't say in the book because I was trying to protect his reputation, but he was in prison when I got hit by the car,
Oh.
which is why he sent us with our mom, because his second wife said, no, I'm not watching, I'm not taking care of him while you do your stint in prison. And so they let him out of prison because they thought I was dying. And they said, you need to come see your daughter. She's dying.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I looked at him and I didn't even know who he was. And then I fell back asleep. So
Wow.
yeah, I was really messed up. I had scars everywhere. I have scars here. I have one in my head. I have scars on my wrists, my ankles, my entire torso is one big scar. I mean, I really did look like Frankenstein. My eyes were like this, they were crossed. I mean, I wore big, thick glasses and a patch. And when I got out of the hospital,
So wait a minute. So they never found the person, did they? Or did they find?
yes, they did. Yes, they did, because it was right in front of a 7-Eleven, and there were people in the parking lot when he did it and he took off, but they found him. And then my mom hired an attorney thinking she was going to get a payday. And the attorney saw the case took so long because he was some kind of bigwig with a big tire company. I don't know which one. But the case took like 4 years to complete. And in that span of 4 years, my attorney kept tabs on me. And as we moved through the foster care system, he kept tabs, and he would, like in the book, he sent us a plane ticket to come, and I had to do the doctor's visits and, finish the court case. But he saw that my mother did not have good intentions for the money that I was going to get paid. So he put it in an annuity for me for when I became an adult. So he took care of me. He really did. And this book is not only about things that happened to me, but it's a tribute to the people that helped me become who I am.
Yes. And and some of those people, when I say the name Jyllene, see, you start smiling. And I can tell because, like I said, there is hope in the book. I mean, there's this stuff. Oh, I like that. I like that.
Sorry.
But I love that. Oh, please, because that's someone in the book. We see that Henry, all they're nice. You found people who are nice to you.
Yeah.
Right now, the emotions are coming to the surface for you, which I think it's amazing. I mean, I think that's a testament to her that you're teary-eyed about it, because through all of this crap, it's crap. It's all crap. It's all crap that was done to you. Let's just break it down. It's just crap. You did find someone who was like a mother to you.
Yes.
So
I still call her mom.
Yeah, talk about her a little bit. Talk about Jyllene.
Jyllene is amazing. When I was writing the book, Michelle was typing. We had finished the story, and I went on Facebook. And Facebook has its negative values, but there are some wonderful things that have come out of Facebook. And reconnecting with people you haven't seen in a long, long time is one of the best things that it should be used for.
I agree.
And spreading joy and happy stories. But so I found Henry Jr. and I sent him a friend request, and within 15 minutes he accepted, and then immediately sent me a message and said, "Hey, mom's been looking for you."
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, "What?" And he gave me your number, and they live in Nashville, Tennessee. All of them do. Henry, Randy, Crystal, and Jyllene.
Oh wow.
And this woman is in her 70s and is still taking care of children. Yes, she's had almost, I think, 50 kids to date. But the ones she has now, she adopted them. Their mother left them, and she just took them in, left them with a homeless person. And and so she took them in, and she adopted them. And she's just an amazing person. And I took the book. I told her I wanted to get a hold of her because she's in the book, obviously. And I took the book to her and I said, "Hey, can you please, if anything's wrong or misrepresented, can you read through and just let me know and let me fix? And if you have any pictures, because I had no pictures of myself when I was a child, and she had some pictures. So I went to Nashville, Tennessee and visited with her, and I hadn't seen her in probably 18 years. And so it was a great reunion, and she read the book by the time I got back. And the part about the cabin, she hasn't seen the cabin in over 20 something years. So it made her miss the cabin, and it's like 3.5 hours from her. So she drove to the cabin, and there was a for sale sign out front, and she called little Henry, and he bought it. He bought the cabin, let me finish the final edit in the cabin for the book.
Oh.
And I just finished book 2 there as well.
See, now let's see. Look. So you write a book.
Yep.
This is what it's the ripple effect. And
Yes.
The ripple effect. I love that.
So then there's one more exciting. So I always look for signs. I believe God guides me and tells me, hey, Michelle, you're on the right path. You're on the wrong path.
Yeah.
And he sends people to help me with things that I'm supposed to do. Because I've always said, God did not let me live through all that to not do something.
I know,
I'm
right?
supposed to do something.
Right.
And so on the way back, I had to go to the bathroom really bad. And I'm kind of a little bit of a germaphobe, and I hate using gas station bathrooms, but it was the only thing available.
Yeah.
So I pulled over. It was a Pilot gas station off the side of the highway. And I come out of the bathroom, and this foot hits me in the face, and I look up, and there are all these Nelly dolls. Whole bunch of them. Yes.
Oh my God.
Talk about a sign.
See,
Talk about it. Boom. You are literally on the right path. So I bought all of them, and I had them all throughout the building at the book release party, and of every different color. And when I got up and talked to the audience at the book release party, I said, the reason why I have them on all different colors, and I said, it's because this stuff happens to every girl, every boy. It happens to everybody. It does not know religion. It does not know race. It does not know. Evil is evil.
Yes.
Evil is evil.
Yes.
And it happens to everyone. So I feel like this book and these stories, anyone can relate to, because they've either gone through it or they know someone who's gone through it.
I completely agree with that. And again, my last question for you is, and this is just retrospect as you're writing these stories, why do you think you have thrived? I use that word specifically. Why do you think you've thrived? Because I know people say something about me sometimes. I go like, James, you went through all this stuff, and they see what I've done. Like, how do you just do it? I'm like, good question. But I'm asking now about this about you and your life, your book. Why do you think you've thrived so far?
I could answer it a couple different ways, but I really feel like I was so bound and determined to not be what everybody thought I was. And again, success is the best form of revenge.
Right.
It is. I always say, kill them with kindness, but show them you're not what they thought you were, show them. And then also, I don't give up. I am stubborn. I'm very stubborn. And unfortunately, but fortunately, my kids got that same trait from me. So they're stubborn, and they're very, very successful. I have one son who's special ops in the Navy.
Oh, wow.
I have another son who's a special an award-winning real estate agent in Columbus. And, they're very successful, and they had wonderful childhoods because I was so bound and determined to not be that statistic. Oh, this kid had a drug addict mother and a drug addict PTSD father. She's write her off. Right. She's ruined. She's damaged goods. I refuse to be that. I refuse to be that. And I refuse to look at children that way. Children, there are so many children, especially with the opioid epidemic. There are so many children going through the same stuff I went through today. And we can't look at them and write them off, because I can be a Jyllene to someone, or I can be an Alan Williams to someone, and it's why I'm starting my foundation, and it's almost up and going, but I'm going to help foster children that transition out of the system for not just when they first transition out, but I'm going to support them for a decade.
Okay.
Yeah, because it took me 10 years to get my shit together as an adult.
Yeah.
It did.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because I had to figure it out. I didn't have anyone to teach me.
Girl, it took me to my 40s. I got to my 40s. If I pulled together 40s, my 40s, my last like 13, 14 years of my life, I finally get it together. But yeah, well, the thing is, when you live a certain way for so long, you have to forgive yourself that it may take that almost that long to get out of it. Maybe sooner, but it takes a while to get out of it. Just to kind of
yeah,
get out of that mindset and that hamster wheel, I call it, just going round and round.
that's a good analogy.
It is.
Yeah.
You're just going right. You're just like you're running. You're just going
Yep.
around, and I want to get off the hamster wheel. I don't want that. Well, you have to come back on for each book that comes out. You have to come back on. We continue this conversation because I think it's very important, and you are a delight. I mean, the book's called Dumpster Doll: The Early Years. So it's Michelle Mays and Michelle Noon. Where can they find this book if you want to buy it?
That book, if you want to go to a store, it's in all the stores in the Smoky Mountains. It's in a couple stores in Columbus, Ohio. The Book Loft and I forget the name of the other one, 2 Cent Bookstore, something like that. It's in several half-price books. It's on Amazon.com.
Yes.
It's on BarnesandNoble.com, iBooks.com, Target.com, Walmart.com, Kobo.com, and it's available in paperback, hardback, ebook, and as of 2 weeks ago, Audible. It's on Audible. So the audiobook, I am reading it. It's me reading to you.
Wow.
And my cousin produced it for me. He is a Grammy nominated producer in Nashville, and he did it for me for free, but he said he would only do it if I read it. And I was like, oh, come on. That's
like, really?
hard.
I lived it already. I lived it. I wrote it. I went in but it had to be from your own words, I think. It had to be.
So I break down a few times in
I'm
there.
sure.
And
I'm sure.
so
I'm sure.
it's a little hard.
It had to come from your own words, I think. It had to come from you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Well, it's great, kids. I'm James Lott Jr. and I just for all of us adults who went through broken childhoods and teenage years, I always wish peace for you. I wish that you could find a place for all of that pain somewhere, because it's just not easy to get over it, not easy to put it aside. I don't think one ever gets over it, but you find a place for it.
Right.
And one of the outlets is writing. If you have an outlet, if it's music, poetry, dance, painting, whatever you kind of outlet you have, or just talking to your friends or talking to her, write her an email, write me an email, whatever. Just talk to
email me.
Comment from the bottom on the bottom of this thing. Do not keep it inside if you can, because it becomes a cancer in you that just takes over. So I wish peace for everyone who goes through some things that you just cannot believe happen, because they do happen. I mean, they do happen. So I do wish that for everyone. And thank you everybody for listening and or watching. We're on every streaming service platform you can think of, iHeartRadio to Spotify and Google and Apple. We're on YouTube. My online network is JLJ Media. We're 35 series of all kinds of things, from soap operas to Star Wars to stuff like this, where we actually talk about very serious subjects. So please check us out, subscribe, share this with anybody you think needs to hear this. Share this book with anybody who needs to share it. It's very important. We are all part of the same village. So we got to lift each other up and be there for each other. Everyone, please have a great day, and we'll talk soon.